Here we are. We are in the middle of a series on the book of Revelation. Oh, Revelation, that's right. Ooh, yeah. If you're the first time here, it's been an amazing series. It's really about the big themes, the big questions in the last book of the Bible. Here's one thing I do know about people, is that we don't like FOMO. You know FOMO? Fear of missing out. That's why I put the photo of us at Promise Keepers on our Elam page. Like, hope you got some FOMO. Which next year I want to go to Promise Keepers. But I was just thinking, a few years ago, I remember turning up to this event and I walked up with confidence to the registration table like I did at Promise Keepers, and I gave them my name. They looked again, and then they called someone over. Now, when they call someone over, then you know there's something wrong. Right? And then they said, sorry, we can't find your name. And I'm like, But have you ever noticed how quickly confidence disappears when someone says those words? We can't find your name. And I went from good morning to, are you sure? Could you check? Under Ants. Maybe Anthony. Or maybe Covers, Mr. Covers. Or maybe Pastor Ants. Maybe check the important guest list. Check that list. But nothing. My name wasn't there. Suddenly I'm wondering, was I even supposed to be here? You know. But I think we all know what it feels like to be left out. Whether it's not getting picked for that team, not getting the invitation. You ever not got an invitation for something? Everyone else in your family got it but you? I've got an auntie's birthday coming up, and only two of us out of our siblings got the invitation. I got it, but not my other siblings. I just said to them, look, they don't love you that much, but they love me. That's why I got the invitation. I was just being honest. Right? Or maybe not getting accepted for that job. Not making the shortlist, not being selected. You know, we live in a world with exclusive lists. But here's the thing: there aren't many seats. There are only so many tickets, so many spots available. Which is why when people hear about certain parts of Revelation, we immediately start thinking, "What if I didn't make the cut? What if my name's not on the list? I heard there's the book of life. What if my name never made that list? What if I missed out?" Well, the good news that this message we're looking at today is far bigger and far better than most people realize. Because this message is a message of hope for ordinary people who have gone through extraordinary amount of pressure. Have you ever been through pressure before? And sometimes that pressure just feels like it doesn't let up. Just keeps going and going. When you get through one thing, another thing comes. Because at the heart of Christianity isn't the story of people trying to get onto God's list. It's the story of God who has made a way for people to belong to him. Which leads me to the title of today's message. It is, Who Can Stand? The 144,000 and the people of God. And so that's today. We're going to be looking at the 144,000. Who are the 144,000? Are you part of the 144,000? Well, let's take a look. Last week we talked about the 7 signs, you know. The 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, the 7 bowls, and we threw in the 4 horsemen just for fun. Threw that in. That was last week. But today I want to start after the 6th seal. And if you remember that from last week, after the 6th seal was opened, the earth is shaking, the nations are trembling, God's final judgment has arrived, and then Revelations asks one of the most important questions in the entire Bible. At the end of after the 6th seal is opened, the question is this: in Revelation 6, verse 17. It says this: for the great day of their wrath have come. Who can stand? Who can stand? That's the question. Who can stand when everything else falls? Who can stand when pressure comes? Who can stand when suffering comes? Who can stand when judgment comes? When judgment comes for you. Reminds me of a song. But anyway, Revelation chapter 7. God gives his answer. And in the very next chapter is the answer. Now, before we get into it, we just need to understand something about Revelation. Revelation isn't a puzzle waiting for the newspaper to unlock. Once we get the headlines, we can start to unlock Revelation for what I'm seeing in the headlines. No, Revelation unlocks with the Old Testament. If you don't know the Old Testament, then you'll spend your time just guessing what's going on. So if you know the Old Testament, then then you begin to see what John is saying in the book of Revelation. So I always recommend people, if you ever read Revelation, just read the Old Testament, maybe read it 10 times, and then you can read Revelation. Okay? That's a good idea. But if you haven't had time to do that, that's okay. Just listen to this message for some shortcuts. So here, let's get into it. So let's step into this intermission between the 6th seal and the 7th seal. John writes, Revelation chapter 7, verse 3. Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of God on their foreheads. Before judgment, don't harm anything until we have sealed the servants of God on their foreheads, right? Now, before judgment comes, God marks his people. He identifies those who belong to him. Now, this is important because God never promised that his people would avoid trouble. God promised his people would belong to him in the middle of the trouble. Notice what the text doesn't say. It doesn't say they are removed. It doesn't say they escape. It says they are sealed, protected, known, marked as his own. And if this sounds familiar, because you're like, man, this sounds so familiar. You'll be going, and I know what you're thinking. This sounds so much like Ezekiel chapter 9. And you know what? I know that's what you're thinking. That's exactly it. I know you're thinking that. Because in Ezekiel, remember Ezekiel chapter 9? You know, God places a mark on the righteous before judgment comes on Jerusalem. Yeah, that's right. It's connected. I know. But this is also the counter mark to the mark of the beast that we see in Revelation chapter 13. That's connected as well. Now, we'll jump into the mark of the beast later on in the series, so hold on. So what is 666? Anyway, I'm just a bit of a warm-up to what's coming. But here's the thing. We find out who are these people who will be marked by God? Who are these people? Well, Revelation chapter 7 verse 4 tells us. It says, I heard. Everyone say heard. And I heard the number of the seal, of the sealed, 144,000, sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel. So where are they from? Israel. 12,000 from the tribe of Judah, 12,000 from Reuben, and so on. And so there's 12 times 12,000, which gets, there's 12 times 1,000 gets you 12,000. Add them up, you get 144,000. That's where we get this number from, right? So the question is this. Is God only saving 144,000? And if God is only saving 144,000, what about 144,001? So, sorry, you missed the cut. You know, but I've been standing here for the last 500 years. Sorry, only 144,000. You didn't make it. But here we go. Let's just get into this a bit more. So we kind of asked this, so is heaven capped? Is there a cap to who goes to heaven? Now, what we do know, what do we know? So we know that 12 represents the 12 tribes of Israel. We know that. What about 1,000? What does the Bible speak about 1,000? Well, in the Bible, 1,000 is symbolic of entirety, of completion, 1,000. And we see that in Psalms chapter 50, verse 10. It says, for every animal of the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. Right? That God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. It doesn't mean that God only owns the hills from hill number 1 to hill number 1,000, but 1,001, well, that's not God's. It doesn't mean that. The point is totality, complete, means complete ownership. So the 144,000 isn't communicating limitation, it's communicating completeness. The complete people of God. That's what this is. 144,000 is not a limitation, it's communicating the complete number of the people of God. Now, the next question is, so is God only saving ethnic Jews? That's the next question, right? But then something strange happens in the text because John hears one thing, then he sees something else. And this isn't the first time. If you've been reading Revelation, you go, yeah, I've seen this pattern before. Where do we see this pattern? Oh, yeah, I remember seeing this in Revelation chapter 5. Do you remember Revelation chapter 5? Yeah, I know you remember this. So in chapter 5, John hears the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He hears the Lion of the tribe of Judah, but when he turns, he doesn't see a lion. He sees a lamb standing as though it had been slain. He hears a lion and he sees a lamb. He hears a lion and he sees a lamb. Not two different figures, but two different perspectives of the same figure. And so that's the exact same pattern that's happening here. John says, I heard the number of the sealed, 144,000. Then verses later, verse 9, after this I looked. I heard, now I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages. So you got the Cook Island language in there as well. Standing before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed in white robes. Do you see it? He hears 144,000, but then he turns and he sees the multitude that nobody can count. Nobody can count. Limitless. From every tribe, every nation, every people group. He hears Israel and he sees the nations. He hears the people of God described one way, then he sees the people of God described another way. This isn't two saved people, it's one redeemed people. One redeemed people, one family, people from every tribe, every nation, every language who have been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. So who receives the seal? Everyone who belongs to Jesus. Everyone who trusts in the Lamb. The 144,000 isn't a tiny group of spiritual VIPs. The 144,000, they are a picture of the complete people of God. Which leads us back to the original question. Who can stand? Who can stand? Not the strongest, not the richest, not the most religious, the ones who belong to the Lamb. Who can stand? The ones who belong to the Lamb. Verse 13, then one of the elders addressed me saying, who are these? Clothed in white robes, and from where have they come? Verse 14, I said to him, sir, you know. And he said to me, these are the ones coming out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes and they made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Notice it doesn't say, these are the ones that have avoided the tribulation. It doesn't say that. He says they came through tribulation. See, the Christian promise is not escape from suffering. That's not the gospel. But the Christian promise is God's presence with you in suffering. That's the promise. That's the gospel. That's the gospel promise, that God is with you in your suffering. Now, the word used here for tribulation, the Greek word here for tribulation is thypsis. Thypsis means pressure. It means affliction. It means distress. It means persecution. Has anyone ever felt pressure before? Or you've felt tribulation? Has anyone ever carried grief? Has anyone ever wondered how much that you could take from this pressure after pressure after pressure? See, if you are going through pressure after pressure right now, well, this passage is for you. Because Revelation isn't merely describing some future generation. Because we've been programmed whenever we see tribulation, it's talking about something in the future. That's not what Revelation is talking about. It's describing the experience of God's people throughout history. Now, yesterday at Promise Keepers, one of so many things impacted me in the message, which is why I brought KFC home. Apart from that, Kai for Christians. Apart from that, there was one of the last speakers, his name was Andy. He was from the Voice of the Martyrs, and he was sharing about the persecution of the church. Did you know most of the Christian world is being persecuted? We don't feel it out here in the West because the only persecution we feel is like, I don't know if I should say grace in McDonald's. I feel so persecuted. But he tells a story of in North Africa. We had this village of Christians being attacked by another group who weren't Christians. And they attacked this village, over 1,000 attacked this village, and they were with bats, with steel poles, with machetes, with machine guns. And everyone just fled out of this village, just running for their lives. This 13-year-old boy gets knocked on the side of his head so hard that he falls to the ground as if he's dead. One of the people who were attacking this village for being Christian got a knife out and gouged out his eye so he can take it as a trophy. Another person with a machete cut off his genitals. This boy survived. And with the one eye that he did have, he was blind from the blow to his head. But what he said afterwards, he said, I don't blame them, because they did this to me, for they did not know what they were doing. He's now 18 years of age, which means this isn't a story from 20 years ago. It's a story from 5 years ago. He's 18 years of age and he's learned to read Braille, and he wants to go to Bible college so that he can go back to the very people who did this to him and tell them about Jesus. See, tribulation describes the experience of God's people throughout history. Today, every believer who has suffered, every believer who has endured, every believer who refused to let go of Jesus. Then comes one of the most beautiful promises in Revelation 7, verse 16. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst anymore. The sun shall not strike them, nor the scorching heat. Verse 7, for the Lamb in the midst of the throne will be their shepherd, and he will guide them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. This, you know, when I was preparing this message, my heart was mourning for the persecuted church. But when you read this, the promise is powerful, that God himself will wipe away the tears. Notice God doesn't say tears never happen. He says tears won't have the final word. The Lamb doesn't promise a life without tribulation. He promises his presence through tribulation and victory beyond tribulation. That's what he promises. So church, when life gets hard, remember, if you surrender to the Lamb, you'll stand in the storm. And I know the Spirit of God is here because we've heard Mars with this word. And then I even missed out what Angie said. So I said, Michelle, what did Angie say? And I was going, wow. Who can stand? If you surrender to the Lamb, you stand in the storm. And one day, every tear you cried, every prayer you prayed, every burden you've carried will meet the nail-scarred hand of Jesus. And he himself will wipe away your tear. So what does this mean for us? It means Revelation 7 isn't really about 144,000 people. It's about a much bigger question. Who can stand when life falls apart? Who can stand when the pressure won't let up? Who can stand when the future feels uncertain? Who can stand when grief, disappointments, and suffering comes? Who can stand? Revelation answers this simply. He says, those who surrender to the Lamb, not those who have it all together, not those who are strong enough, not those who never struggle, those who trust Jesus and put their lives into his hand. And that's the hope of Revelation. Because what looks like defeat today won't have the final word tomorrow. What looks like failure today won't have the final word tomorrow. What looks like loss and grief today won't have the final word tomorrow. And one day, the Lamb at the center of the throne will be our shepherd. And God himself will wipe away every tear from our eyes. So where does this leave us? See, the question of Revelation still echoes today. Who can stand? Who can stand? Not just on the last day. Who can stand when life doesn't go as planned? Who can stand when your marriage is struggling? Who can stand when the prayer goes unanswered? Who can stand when the diagnosis comes? Who can stand when they fail? Who can stand when regret keeps you awake at night? How many of us have been kept awake because of regret? You know, I've had pain. I've had regret. I've failed. I've said things that I wish I can grab and put them back in my mouth. I know that's what I'm sharing this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been embarrassed. I've had moments where I questioned myself, my future, even whether I was enough. And if someone gave me one wish, one opportunity to erase one of the hardest days in my life as though it never happened, I think I'll take it without hesitation. If someone said, look, I can give you a wish and you can just erase one day in your life as if it never happened, I think I'll take that. I'll take that wish. Give me that wish. But then comes the harder question. Which day would I erase? Which day? Because the more I look back, the more I realize that many of those moments that I would have to remove were the very moments that God used to shape me. Not because the pain was good, not because the loss was good, not because failure was good, but because God met me there. He met me there in my pain, in my tears, in my suffering. Looking back, some of those days felt like defeat. Were actually days that God was doing His deepest work in my life. And that's the hope of Revelation. Not that we'll avoid tribulations, not that Christians escape hardships, but Christians belong to the Lamb. The Lamb in the middle of it. Because the storm is real, the pressure is real, the tears are real, but the shepherd is real too. Christianity isn't like, hey, come to Jesus and all your problems go away. Your problems don't go away. But that's not the problem. It's good. It's good. Who I am today is through the mess. Who you are today is through the mess. And I thank God. I thank God. Because what looks like defeat today won't have the final word tomorrow. Come on, church, let us pray.